Hello fellow book lovers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, and first of all, I know that I look a little bit crazy right now. I have prepped my face to do my first segment in what I like to call Emily's Looks and Books, where I talk about a book that I recently just finished and then I recreate the book cover with my makeup. And so I prep my face, baking my face right here with powder, and my eyes are all primed for some eyeshadow. So I'm really excited for today because I really enjoyed this book and I'm really excited to talk about it. So let's get down to business and let's talk about some books. All right, so the book that I'm talking about today is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And I can honestly not say good enough things about this book. It was incredible. This was Reese's first YA pick in August, and I recently finished it and I was so excited to talk about it, and I'm even more excited to recreate it on my face because first of all, look at this cover. It is like purple ombre with like this yellow crown just right front and center. Just like purple and yellow all throughout. Gorgeous cover. Whoever the model is on this book cover is so cute and pretty. And I saw an interview with Leah Johnson about this book, and they said that they wanted her hair to just be the forefront of just like empowerment on this cover. So the editor even went in and added more curls, and I just loved this cover and I loved the book and message even more. We're going to sit down and talk about that book while I recreate it on my eyes. Purple is like one of my favorite colors ever, especially with eyeshadow, and so I was really excited that I gotta recreate it. My very first looks and books is gonna be such a fun, colorful look. So I love YA books so much that they're the books that like really turned me on to reading when I was in high school. I took so many classes in high school where they were just like reading classes, and I got to read so many YA books. And then I got into college and I kind of stopped reading for fun altogether. But then 2020, I recently got back into it, and I'm so glad that I got back into YA with You Should See Me in a Crown because it was just so beautiful. So the story revolves around a senior in high school whose name is Liz Leidy, and she is one of the only Black students at her school. It's a very small town in Indiana, which I instantly related to because I actually lived in Indiana for a little bit. And a lot of the small town stuff that she was talking about, I could so relate. Like there was this passage in the book where she said Indiana wealth is different than like LA or New York wealth, and it is so true. There are some people in Indiana that have so much money and they live there so that they can have a lot of property and not really have neighbors and kind of get away from it all. They're not as flashy with their money, but they have huge houses, and there is a lot of wealth to be found in Indiana. And so I really enjoyed the aspect of the small town feel, and I could just relate to it so much. Anyway, so Liz Leidy is navigating school in like this small town. She never feels like she really belongs. Her whole life, she has always been super excited to one day go to this school that her mother, who had died from sickle cell disease, had went to. And she, like, the whole premise is that she wants to go to this college that her mom went to, this really prestigious college where her mom felt like she belonged in, and Liz was just so excited to be able to go there too. And she comes from literally like really no money, and so she was banking on getting this band scholarship. But at the beginning of the story, she doesn't get the scholarship. And so now she has to figure out how she can pay to go to this prestigious school so that she can get out of this small town and finally live somewhere where she feels like she belongs. In a specific small town, prom is a really big deal. And whoever wins prom, king and queen, get a full ride scholarship to any college of their choice. So Liz, who isn't a very popular girl, decides to run for prom queen. You know, her best friends are like very supportive of her. She's like, we're going to have you win. but in order to win, you have to conform to what the popular kids do. And so she's like doing all these activities because activities gets you points, and the more points you have gets you in prom court on her way to be queen. And along the way, she meets this girl named Mac, who is a new student to the school. Liz like instantly falls in love with her. That was one of the biggest things that I loved about this book, was all of the representation. There was seriously so much representation in this book that I just feel like YA has been lacking this kind of representation in books. And it was so surprising but so wonderful at the same time to see more representation in a YA book. So it turns into this unexpected but really beautiful love story between Liz and Mac. And then of course, like, it's navigating homophobia in small towns, which is a serious problem. Then it talks about friends who do something to really harm you and hurt you. It talks about sickle cell disease, which I was unaware of, but later found out impacts the Black community more than it impacts others' communities. One of my favorite representations that it had was the representation of anxiety, which is becoming a more open topic to be like that is being discussed. But the way that Leah Johnson described it, I think really described it so beautifully. As somebody who has had anxiety my whole life, I never felt so represented before. I feel like, I don't know, it's just the way that she described Liz's panic attacks and the way that she described how Liz was feeling during certain anxious moments was like she was literally inside of my brain and reading how I react to certain things. And I was surprised by how really seen that I felt. And like I said, Leah Johnson just described it so eloquently and in a way that really made me feel like people understood how I was feeling. I just wasn't, like I said, it just so unexpected but so beautiful at the same time. And it dealt with issues of racism that is so prevalent, you know, in America, and how Liz felt being one of the only Black students, you know, in her school, and some of the different microaggressions that she dealt with, and even a character who was just so blatantly racist. And it really just dealt with so many issues, so many problems in America, so many different representations, so many different themes. Like, I was so shocked that she was able to pack so much stuff into this book. And she did it in such a way that is so, like, impactful. I feel like no matter who you are, you will find a representation of yourself in this book. I don't want to give too much away if you guys haven't read it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say that I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. And I say that because when I first started reading it, I was like, okay, this is going to be all about the prom. I actually never even went to my high school prom. And so I was just like, I don't really see how I'm going to relate to this at all. But I started noticing some of the themes that were really prevalent in it, and I realized just like how beautiful of a book it really was. Like, probably many of you, I really hated high school a lot. And that's my one thing with like YAs is like sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to be reminded of high school because it was not a fun time for me. So I feel like I was like always trying to impress somebody. Whether that was my friends, teachers, I was always trying to be somebody who I just wasn't. And in the story, Liz very much was that way all up until she did this whole prom court thing. And I just loved how Leah ended this. She ended it in a way just to show you that you can be yourself, and that is like more than enough. And I don't know, it's just the love story in it was one of my favorites. First of all, it was just like so cute. But it just really like showed that like if the person you like really loves you, you will not have to change for them. And it was really interesting to read how like some schools in America do prom, because my high school never did prom that elaborate. Prom was never that big of a deal. And watching the interview with Leah, I found out that like she really took experiences from people's like real prom, which like I said was just so funny to me because I never had a prom. Like my prom was never this crazy. Like nobody was getting a full-ride scholarship for being prom queen. That would have been really cool though. All right, and this is the final look. I did my best to recreate the book cover and I really had fun with this. First of all, it is just so pretty. All the elements of purple, kind of like the darker ombre. So I tried to recreate that darker look leading into the crown right there and added some sparkle. And then of course some purple pink lips. And I just pull it all together. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because it is seriously that book. It is so good. There's so much representation. You will see yourself somewhere in this book because it just covers so many different bases, so many different problems, so many different just representation that really needs to be talked about in YA. And I'm so happy that I picked this book up and read it because representation is so important in the literature that we read, in the media that we view, and I am so grateful for Leah Johnson to bring that representation into probably one of the most important place to bring that representation, which is YA. And so anyways, super recommend this book to you. I hope that you like this video today. Let me know what you think. This is my first time doing this segment. Thank you all so much for the support. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.